Hello everyone. Today we're going to make peppered meatballs. I'm going to go ahead and put it in a slow cooker because, as you know, I use my slow cooker quite a bit, just anytime I can. You could also simmer this on the stovetop just as well. It's not necessarily a complete slow cooker recipe. We are going to brown the meatballs in the oven as well. So, you could leave the slow cooker out if you didn't want to mess with that, or if you didn't have one, you could totally do this recipe without it. But let's go over the ingredients real quick. Very basic ingredients. I got about a pound of ground beef. I'm going to get about a quarter cup of ground freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I'm going to put about a half cup of sour cream in the meat mixture as well, along with about a quarter cup of dried breadcrumbs. And then for the seasoning, we want about a good amount of pepper. The recipe is named peppered meatballs. We're going to do about three teaspoons at least of that. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt. Okay, now for the sauce, the main ingredient is going to be the mushroom soup. We're going to do 1 can of mushroom soup and 1 cup of sour cream. We're also going to put about a teaspoon of garlic powder in that, along with about a teaspoon of pepper and about 2 teaspoons of dill weed, and maybe about a half teaspoon of sugar. So, and that's what's going to go in for the sauce. We're going to brown and make the meatballs, mix them up in a bowl. I got my 2 bowls here, one for the sauce and one for the hamburger. I've also I went ahead and got a small ice cream scoop that we're going to make the meatballs with. That's the smallest I could get, was just a little over an inch. I think it's 1.25 inches or something like that. That was the smallest one I get. You can also make it by hand. You don't really need one. But I'm kind of picky. I like to get all my meatballs the same size, so that's the way I'm doing that. And then what we'll do is we'll bake them on a tray. We'll grease the tray and cook them, and we'll get back for that step once we're ready. Let me get everything together, mixed up in the bowl, and take you and get back to you at the next step. Okay, so I'm going to get started on the meat mixture, and what I've done here is I've already got about a quarter of a cup of Parmesan cheese shredded up in there. And the idea of any type of meat mixture, meatloaf or meatballs, is you want to get everything in the bowl first, mix it all up completely, and then add the beef at the last. And you just want to mix it as quickly as possible, and you certainly don't want to overwork the mixture, so whatever it is you're making doesn't turn out tough. Once again, I'm going for about 3 teaspoons of ground pepper. I'll probably add more off camera, otherwise I'm going to be standing here grinding forever. But again, the recipe calls for a good amount of fresh cracked black pepper, and that's what really gives the dish its flavor. So that looks pretty good. I might need a little bit more later, but we'll see. We want about a teaspoon of garlic powder, and here go the breadcrumbs. About 3/4 of a cup. And about 3/4 a cup of sour cream. That doesn't mix very well. We'll just have to get in there with our hands once we put the meat in. So I'm just going to break up this ground beef over the top of it and just sort of gently, but mix it evenly, but gently mix it. Till it's even throughout, and then we'll come back and ball up some meatballs with the ice cream scooper, and get the oven preheated as well. That's something I should probably do right about now. So I'm going to mix this a little bit more off camera, and once it's ready we'll be back for the next step. Okay, we got our well mixed. So what I like to do is I like to pack the scoop and then level it off, and then go ahead and just round out your meatball like that. That way it's already pretty well packed, and they'll all be about the same size. So I'm gonna go ahead and lightly grease that pan, and I'm just going to place them on the pan and get working on the entire batch here. I'll just do a couple of these real quick, go off camera, and finish them up from there. Then when we come back, we'll throw them in the oven and get started on the sauce that's going to go over the top of them. See, they all turn out almost exactly the same size. I just push it in, scrape off the top. Couldn't be easier. Okay, so I'm going to finish that up off camera, and we'll come back and get ready for the next step. Okay, so as soon as I turned off the camera in the last segment, I realized I didn't add the salt. So I basically, luckily I only had a couple meatballs made, so I just threw them back in and mixed them back up with about a teaspoon of salt, and then went ahead and formed my meatballs from there. I also have the oven over here on 350 preheated, and what I'm going to do is just throw them in there for about 20 to 25 minutes, just to where the meat is cooked through. And as soon as I'm done with that, we'll pull them out of there. We'll put them in the slow cooker, and we will get the sauce ready while we wait for that to cook down. Like I said, 20-25 minutes. Okay, so here I've gotten the mushroom soup out of the can, and now I'm going to mix it with the sour cream. Again, you need about a cup of sour cream. I'm just going to eyeball it here. That ought to be close. And I'm going to go in with a teaspoon of garlic powder. We're going to have 2 teaspoons of dill. There's 1. There's 2. We want about a teaspoon of regular sugar, and some more fresh cracked pepper. And let me get a whisk here. And again, as soon as those meatballs are done, we're going to pull them out, put them in the slow cooker, and pour this right over the top of it. I don't know how much it's going to pour. Probably more like spoon it over the top of it. This does thin out once some of the fluids from the meatballs start releasing in the slow cooker. But you don't want this too thin. You kind of want it to stick to the meatballs while you're eating them. You don't want them to, and of course the sour cream will get a lot softer once it's heated up more. But like I said, you do want this to be rather thick in order for it to stick to the meatballs. Now you can eat this just as a side dish if you like. I am going to actually throw it on a small plate of pasta and have it as like a small meal. But either you could do it as a an appetizer or a snack, party snack or something like that, or you can throw it on top of some pasta and eat it like a meal. So once those are ready, we still got another 12 minutes on the timer, so I'll be back once the meatballs are ready. Okay, so the timer just went off. Actually, I set it for about 23 minutes, and they look just perfect. So they're cooked through, they're browned up. As you can see, one's missing. Just ate it. It's perfect. Trust me, very good. Right amount of pepper and garlic. Probably could have used a little bit more salt. Again, I think that was my fault for forgetting the salt. The salt that I did put in probably didn't mix as evenly as I would have liked it. Trying to mix it into the meat separately like I did probably is the problem. So I'm going to get these out of here. I'm going to put them into the crock pot, and then we'll come back after that. I kind of need two hands here, even though I do have the tripod. But you don't really need to see me putting these in the slow cooker. So let me go ahead and get that done. Be right back. Alright, so I got them in there. They're just down there at the bottom. There's not a lot of extra room here. This recipe actually called for a 1 1/2 quart crock pot. I don't have one that small. This is a 3 quart. It's the smallest I have. So I knew there was going to be extra room. What I should have done is just double the recipe, but I wasn't sure, since it's just me. I wasn't sure if I wanted that many meatballs. Also, I've never tried to freeze this recipe before and reheat it. I know reheating it from the fridge would be fine, but I'm not quite sure how it would freeze. So I'm just going to flatten this out, pour it all in, flatten it out. Gonna try to not waste any here. Alright, we're just gonna cover that, put it on high for about 2 hours until everything's heated through. and hopefully the sauce is smoothed out and just a little bit thinner. And so we'll be back at that point. Okay, so these only took about an hour and a half. About half an hour ago I looked in there, and the sauce really wasn't getting thick enough, so I splashed a little milk in there, maybe a quarter of a cup of milk. But I think that's just because I really have such a mostly empty slow cooker. So there you go. I'm gonna serve up a plate of this. I've got some fresh pasta. And I'm just going to pour this over the top of it. I already tried this out. This turned out really good. It always does. And like I said, you can either serve this as like party snacks, alone, or an appetizer, that sort of thing. Or you can serve it on the pasta like I am and make sort of a meal out of it. And there you go. Go ahead and break open a meatball here real quick just so you can see inside. There's your inside the meatball, still tender and moist. As you would expect in a slow cooker, that's never going to dry out in there. Alright, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you give it a try. Feel free to leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for further videos. And once again, thanks for watching.